So I've been gone for about a good week, and week and some change now. And let me just explain right quick, and then I'll go ahead and get into this video. But long story short, I had a cold, and if you've seen the last video that I posted before this one, you would see that my voice is cracking a little bit, but it was like in this final phase of that cold, right? And then right after I caught the cold and I was getting over it, I ended up getting food poisoning, and that shit put me out for like a good day or so. It was very mild. It didn't last that long, but still it was very unpleasant to go through. But I'm better today. So now I'm on this shit here. And the only thing is that it's like some fucking like red shit right here in my eye. I don't know where that shit came from. It literally just popped up like yesterday night. Like I was fine all day long, then all of a sudden around nighttime the shit just appeared out of nowhere. Like I hopped in the shower and then that bitch was just there. So anyway, we are on Top 5 Unknowns channel today, and this video is going to be called 5 Scary Places Where People Vanish with No Explanation. Now I didn't really pay attention to exactly what video I posted on this channel so far. As far as the ones that I've re-uploaded, I know for a fact which ones I've uploaded that were new on this channel, and I think it was like the last two that came before this one. The thing that I have about videos that involve people vanishing is not so much as people going missing, which is the scary part about it. It's scary when considering what the circumstances were. Like if they were in a situation where they shouldn't have just vanished completely, out of thin air. Like it was one video of Top 5 Unknowns that I've watched where it was a guy who entered a bar with his friends and he just vanished within the bar. Like there was no cameras catching him leaving the place, stuff like that. So that's what usually makes those type of circumstances scary. Now, as far as with scary places, I'm interested to see what the fuck is so scary about the places people went missing in. Like the only thing I could really think of where the environment is scary, like the location is probably like the forest or something, but that's just my opinion. So let's go ahead and hop into this shit and see what this video has to offer us and whether it will be scary or not.
Hearing the terrible news that a loved one has gone missing can be extremely challenging. Fear, anger, and extreme sadness are all valid emotions when faced with this sort of news. Individuals are classified as missing nearly every day. However, certain parts of the world are much more prone to this type of situation than others. There are several areas in which people go missing regularly and are never seen again. Number 5. The Bennington Triangle was the name given to an area of Vermont in which several people went missing between 1945 and 1950, never to be seen again. This triangle claimed the lives of children as young as 8 years old and even elderly visitors who were in their 70s. The exact parameters of this triangle have not been set in stone, with there being some variation between authors who have written about the triangle over the years. The first of these disappearances was Mitty Rivers. Mitty was a 74-year-old man who disappeared while hunting in November of 1945. He'd been hiking with a group of 4 other hunters up the local mountains.
Hold on, the ad's about to start.
An exhaustive search was conducted, with the only piece of evidence being a single rifle cartridge that was found in a nearby stream. Some have speculated Bing was never seen up the local mountains. When heading home, Mitty managed to get ahead of the group and was never seen again. An exhaustive search was conducted, with the only piece of evidence being a single rifle cartridge that was found in a nearby stream. Some have speculated that Mitty had leaned over the stream, or at least crossed it, and the cartridge had fallen out of his pocket. The disappearance occurred on Long Trail Road and Vermont Route 9. Mitty was known to have been an expert hunter in the area, and knew his way around the forest quite well. It's extremely unlikely that he simply got lost, especially since a search of the entire area turned up no results whatsoever. The fifth and final disappearance took place within 16 days of the previous disappearance of an 8-year-old boy. Frida Langer vanished on October 28, 1950, while she and her cousin Herbert left the campsite to go on a hike. While hiking, Frida slipped and fell into a stream. She asked her cousin to wait for her while she ran back to the campsite to change clothes, then returned for the remainder of the hike in a few moments. Herbert waited for quite some time, but when Frida didn't return, he headed back to the campsite to search for her. When he arrived, he found that Frida had never made it back and no one had seen her since the pair initially left. Over the next 2 weeks, 5 separate searches were conducted that each turned up nothing. Aircraft and helicopters were called in to search from the sky, with over 300 individuals searching the ground. It took nearly a year before investigators found her body nearby a reservoir. This was particularly interesting because the area in which she was found was extensively searched on numerous occasions. Her cause of death could not be determined because her body was poorly decomposed. Frida is believed to be the last person to have disappeared in the area, and the only one whose body was ever found.
My only thing about that is, these are the woods we're talking about. Any fucking thing could happen where anything could fucking happen where somebody end up getting like lost or losing their way, or some unfortunate thing happened that would cause for somebody to go missing. I mean, I understand that there are some people who are expert hunters, but I mean, shit, you can't just assume that just because that's the case that shit will never happen. I mean, there's been a lot of times where people that were professionals in anything end up getting themselves hurt because of an accident or something. So,
Number 4. The Sargasso Sea is located just off the eastern coast of North America and is a hotspot for shipwrecks and disappearances. One of the most well-known mass disappearances was that of the crew of the Mary Celeste, a merchant ship that had been completely abandoned by its crew for seemingly no reason. A group of Canadian explorers found the boat floating adrift in poor condition, but still capable of sailing. The final entry in the logbook aboard the ship was found to have taken place 10 days prior to its discovery. The ship was carrying a shipment of denatured alcohol, with all of this alcohol being accounted for. The captain and the crew all had personal belongings aboard the ship that were in their appropriate locations and undisturbed. No signs of foul play were found aboard the ship, but the crew and their captain had seemingly abandoned the ship for no good reason. Over the years, several theories were explored, but none of them ever turned up any details. Various forms of foul play were investigated, but researchers found no signs of mutiny or even piracy. No signs of insurance fraud were found either. And over the years, only a handful of additional details had been revealed regarding the ship. However, none of them had ever given an answer that completely explained what exactly happened to cause the crew to mysteriously vanish. Some have even gone as far to suggest that it could have been evidence of an alien abduction. Number 3. The Bermuda Triangle, also known as Devil's Triangle and Hurricane Valley, is an area just off the coast of Florida and Puerto Rico that has been a hotspot for disappearances over the years. Countless ships and aircraft have entered the boundaries of the triangle, never to make their way out on the other side. Many of these ships and planes have vanished without leaving behind any evidence whatsoever. Many have attributed these disappearances to paranormal activities or extraterrestrial interference. However, research has never definitively concluded what exactly caused so many passenger vehicles to vanish. The first mention of the Bermuda Triangle dates back to September 15, 1950. An article was posted in a local Miami news production that discusses much of the information about the triangle, including information about several ships that had vanished. Just 2 years later, a follow-up article was published in a similar news production that discussed several planes that had gone missing, including the notorious Flight 19, containing a group of Navy gunmen who were on a training mission. This article was the first to offer a map and pinpoint locations of the many disappearances, and was also the first to label the area as a triangle. Flight 19 has been discussed in numerous publications since then, with it being one of the most prolific disappearances in recent history. The pilot for Flight 19 called into local radio personnel before disappearing, claiming, "We're entering white water. Nothing seems right. We don't know where we are. The water is green, no white." After this, all transmissions were lost and the flight was never seen again. The article discussed several possibilities about what may have happened to Flight 19, with one individual claiming that the planes simply flew off to Mars. Over the years, there have been several claiming that the planes simply flew about what may have happened to Flight 19, with one individual claiming that the planes simply flew off to Mars.
What? One person said that the planes just flew off to Mars. Of all the shit that I've heard about the Bermuda Triangle, I have never heard no shit like that before. Who the fuck would just come up with something like that?
Taking place in the triangle. Some believe that the area is essentially cursed or haunted, and that it could be where the supposed sunken city of Atlantis once resided. However, Atlantis has recently been revealed to have been a location in Africa that's now a desert. Other ideas include compass issues.
Did I hear that shit right?
City of Atlantis once resided. However, Atlantis has recently been revealed to have been a location in Africa that's now a desert.
I've never known that shit.
Other ideas include compass issues, with this being one of the most widespread beliefs. Many have suggested that the issues with compass readings have caused ships and planes to leave their designated path, eventually becoming confused and disoriented and crashing somehow or another. The reasoning behind this belief is due to magnetic anomalies that are common in the area. It was theorized that there was an issue in Earth's magnetic poles that only affected this area of the world and caused compasses to become unpredictable. After much research was conducted, though, it was confirmed that no such situation exists. Other issues, such as a Gulf Stream, violent weather patterns, or even simple human error, have been suggested as culprits. However, to this day, we still have no definitive answers regarding what caused so many disappearances in the area.
Exactly.
Number 2. The South Atlantic Anomaly is the name given to an area in which Earth's Van Allen radiation belt comes closest to the surface of the planet. In this area, the belt is just 120 miles below the Earth's surface, exposing many visitors and even satellites to high levels of radiation. This is caused by the non-centricity of Earth's magnetic poles, leading to a sharp incline of radioactivity and energy particles in the area. Over the years, NASA has revealed that the area has detrimental effects on modern electronic equipment, revealing that several advanced laptops and computers
I was born blind with something called retinitis pigmentosa, or
revealing that several advanced laptops and computers have crashed while passing through the area. This area is widely assumed to be the cause of the disappearance of Flight 447, which claimed the lives of 228 people. The flight left the airport on June 1st, 2009. It was carrying 216 passengers and 12 crew members. The plane was headed from Brazil to France, but later into the flight, the engines stalled. The pilot was unable to restart the engines and the plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean below, claiming the lives of everyone on board. Only 2 bodies were ever pulled from the wreckage, with it taking rescue personnel 5 days to search the area and recover these bodies. The flight's recording devices were not located on the ocean floor until 2 years after the crash, leaving much speculation regarding what happened to the flight until the recovery mission. According to the recovered documents, the flight had inconsistencies with its airspeed measurements. It's assumed that this was caused by ice crystals that had formed on certain sensors of the plane, but this couldn't be confirmed. This issue caused the autopilot feature to disengage, which officials say startled the crew. The pilot allegedly reacted to the situation poorly and caused the aircraft to stall. The engines were unable to restart in time and the plane crash landed. Many have questioned the validity of these claims though, with some suggesting that the issues in the Earth's magnetic field may be to blame for the inconsistent computer readings. Regardless, the flight has become the deadliest in the history of Air France, and also the deadliest of all Airbus 330 malfunctions. Number 1. Lake Anjikuni is home to one of the most prolific disappearances of all time. Back in 1930, a newsman from Manitoba reported on a small village located near Lake Anjikuni. The village was known to have been extremely friendly to travelers in the past, but when a man named Joe LaBelle passed through, the village's inhabitants had completely vanished. The travelers searched the village and found that food was still cooking atop fire pits. Sewing stations had been abandoned mid-project, and numerous other signs that seemed to indicate that the villagers had simply vanished without a second's thought. He even found dogs that had been tied up to posts, but ultimately starved to death due to neglect. Children's chores had been abandoned halfway through completion. One of the most disturbing findings was a crew of 7 sled dogs that had died in a nearby grave that had been exhumed. The traveler reported his findings to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, but none of the inhabitants were ever found, nor were any of their bodies. Since the alleged disappearance of the village's inhabitants, the story has been called into question several times. Many debate whether or not the traveler's story was actually true, though there are several accounts of this village's existence, aside from the remarks of this lone traveler. Several reports were found that seem to tell the exact same story, both from police reports and from local news reportings. Even though the story has been regarded as fiction in recent years, by all accounts, this vanishing tribe seems to have been a real-life occurrence. Still to this day, no bodies have been found, and no explanations have fully uncovered why this entire village vanished into thin air.
All right. So, I'll put it like this. It says 5 scary places, okay? The place itself is supposed to be scary for these people to vanish at. And what I'm getting off of this is basically like any other video where I've watched and it talked about people vanishing under, very weird circumstances. So if you've made it this far into the video, I wouldn't even focus on like the scary places part of the title, okay? I would just focus on the situation at hand. With this one here, it's scary because once again, like I said at the beginning of this, depending on what the circumstances were and how they vanished, that shit is scary in itself because you don't know what the fuck happened to these people. They were here, and when one guy came through, they were all gone, and it looked like they was all like in mid, just in the middle of doing something, and just vanished, like in the middle of like cooking shit, making clothes, just activities. And it was just gone, like they just up and just like left, had a mass exodus or something. This one here, like I said, that's what I meant when I said about the locations. The places aren't scary, so I don't know why it says 5 scary places. I would have just kept it at 5 scary disappearances. Well, not disappearances, but like I don't know what the call is. It's just the locations where these things have happened isn't scary, is what I'm trying to say. Like with this one here, number 4, you can chalk it up as, okay, something obviously happened with the plane in order for it to crash. So it's not really scary. It is fucked up, don't get me wrong, but it's just not a scary thing to talk about. It's a very fucked up thing to talk about. It's sad that all those people lost their lives that day, but it's scary. See, this is why I like watching videos about like ghosts and shit, because it's easier for me to kind of have a good time talking about that, because this is real life shit, and I don't want to be like, oh well, it's not scary, so this story doesn't like really like ain't really all that important, because it is. These are real life people that lost their lives, so I can't really like make the comments that I want to like make. It talks about the Bermuda Triangle, and I mean everybody basically like knows about the Bermuda Triangle. Mass disappearances of planes and ships, and people talked about like UFOs and time travel. People have talked so much about like all these type of like different like things, right? I mean, the only thing I never heard of is just planes just straight taking off the fucking Mars. I've never heard nothing like that, but everybody pretty much knows about the Bermuda Triangle. Now this one is also another thing that I was like making a point of at the beginning of this video, where people have just seemingly just got up and fucking left. Like, this is a whole ship, and it said that there was no type of evidence of piracy or, you know, some other shit. So nobody came on and like kidnapped these people, and there was nothing that, you know, would have made them jump off the fucking ship. It's just a random ship that had everybody's belongings in there, and it was just empty, you know. So it just makes you wonder, like, dude, what the fuck happened to the people that was on this bitch? So that's a scary story in itself, because you don't know what the fuck happened to the crew, you know. Okay, now this one was talking about the forest. Like I said at the beginning, forest, it can be a scary place to get lost or whatnot, because it's the forest, you know, and anybody could get lost in there. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I said, I mean, I get that there are people who are expert hikers and hunters, but unfortunate shit can happen that would end up having some, like, you could misstep and end up like falling down a mountain or falling off of something and like hurting yourself some type of way to where you can't like get back, you know. So it's for people go missing in the woods all the time because they have either gotten into an accident out there and couldn't get back, or they just ended up getting lost because they didn't know what they were doing. It said that the 8-year-old boy got lost out there in the woods and they never found him, and that the woman got lost out there and they found her body like, what is it, like sometime later. I think it was like 2 years, not 2 years, but they found it some time later, and they couldn't even tell what the cause of death was because how badly decomposed her body was. And the guy, the one that they was talking about first, he vanished, and you know, that magazine clip was found in the, on the ground or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, as far as this video being, it's not scary. I understand that the circumstances of some of these disappearances are scary, but this one is very common because there's a lot of people that go out into the woods and, you know, get lost. So that's like a common thing you'd expect. Only the disappearances where people, like, there shouldn't have been no fucking reason why they disappeared, those are the only ones that are actually scary, is that you don't know what the fuck the circumstances was, and you're just left with the imagination of what the fuck happened to those people for them to just up and leave. So thank you guys for watching this video with me. I know that I talk a lot. That's what I normally do in these videos. I'm trying to, like, trying to shorten it a little bit, but I like talking about shit like this, man. This is like my favorite shit, and this is like around, I want to say like 12 something right now, and I have to be at work at 3, and I leave out of here like 2 o'clock. So there is a chance that this video is not going to be posted up this afternoon, but it's going to be posted up later on tonight after 11 o'clock, after I get home from work. So if it's not posted up in the afternoon, it'll definitely be posted up like by midnight for sure. So thank you guys for watching this video with me. I'll put the link in the description box below so you guys can check out Top 5 Unknowns, this channel, for yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.